Number 10. Queen of the South. The main character in the show starts off as a badass woman in white dress coming off a chopper and dies. Then we jumped several years back, where Teresa is a poor and helpless woman, then she falls in love with a drug runner. When he murdered by a cartel boss, there she sets out to become a drug lord, and vows to avenge her lover's death. And Teresa becomes very successful, which presents her with more problems. As we all know from the history, that mostly in movies and TV shows, where there are drugs involved, women are shown as toys, but in this one woman is the boss. Queen of the South is an American crime drama television series. It ran for 7 seasons from 2016 to 2021. Number 9. Lupin. Inspired by a book series, a gentleman thief sets out to avenge his father for an injustice inflicted by a wealthy family. We also get an exploration of his past. We see that as a teenager his life was turned upside down when something happened with his father after being accused of a crime that he didn't necessarily commit. We kind of pick up 25 years later, where he looks at this character of Lupin, this burglar, as his inspiration to avenge his father. Within the show you have this wealthy family that we're dealing with here, and the fallout of what happened with his father is his motivation to do what he does in the first few episodes. But from there we start picking up on different plot points, all of those plot points combined with a lot of flashbacks to his childhood. Lupin is a French mystery thriller streaming television series. The series was watched by 70 million households during its first month, becoming the most watched non-English series on Netflix at the time. Number 8. Sons of Anarchy. Sons of Anarchy tells the story of the motorcycle club, and namely the Redwood Original. Sons of Anarchy is basically a pretty large organization. So as we said, the show focuses on Sam Crow, which are basically this motorcycle outlaw gang. At least that's what we see at first. But we quickly learn that it's so much more than that. It's not just about riding around and shooting people. These guys are very clearly the bad guys, and everything from how they run their business, to the brotherhood between them, to the way they deal with their problems, it all is just so fascinating. The characters in this show are incredibly fleshed out and deep, and not just the main characters, but also a surprising amount of the supporting cast. You get to know them, and you get to know their relationships. If you get invested in this show, you get to a point where you know the rules of the club, and you fully understand what they have to do in pretty much any situation, which really gets you immersed in this world. Sons of Anarchy is an American action crime drama television series. It ran for 7 seasons from 2008 to 2014. Number 7. Animal Kingdom. The series centers on a 17-year-old boy named Cody, who moves in with his grandma in their Southern California beach town. After his mother dies, his grandmother heads a criminal clan, and his life takes a turn as he gets involved in their illegal activities with his cousins. This series' strength is in the character development and the solid storytelling. Animal Kingdom is a well-crafted story with a great cast and exceptional writing. Ellen Barkin gives the performance of her lifetime on this hit show as Janine. The other cast members are really great too. Animal Kingdom is an American drama television series. The show concluded in 2022 after 6 seasons comprising 75 episodes. Number 6. Banshee. Banshee tells the story of a man who went to prison for a heist. When he gets out, he seeks out his old girlfriend and partner, and ends up in the sleepy small town of Banshee, Pennsylvania. From that point, the show follows Hood and his team as they face both threats from the past and threats from all the crazy things that are going on in this town. First thing I need to mention about this show is that it is for adults. The story in Banshee is surprising. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. This guy's a criminal. We don't know anything about him, and the past comes back to haunt him while he also has to take on present-day bad guys. Banshee, it's very consistently exciting. There's never a dull moment. The show promises you something and then delivers on it. If you have an issue with the violence and the sex, then this show might not be for you, but otherwise it's a great one to watch. Banshee is an American action television series. It ran for 4 seasons from 2013 to 2016. Number 5. Prison Break. The story follows a man named Michael Schofield. He's an architect played by Wentworth Miller. He deliberately gets himself incarcerated at Fox River Prison in order to break out his brother Lincoln Burrows, played by Dominic Parcell. Lincoln was sentenced to death for a murder that he did not commit. Michael enlists the help of Lincoln's ex-girlfriend Veronica Donovan in order to find out whether or not he's telling the truth. Overall, if you somehow haven't seen Prison Break, I would highly recommend. Prison Break is an American serial drama television series created by Paul Scheuring. It ran for 5 seasons from 2005 to 2017. Number 4. Ozark. Ozark tells the story of the Bird family. Marty Bird has been laundering money for a drug cartel for quite some time, and has made a lot of money in the process, but eventually something goes wrong, and Marty and his family have to move out of their home in Chicago to the Ozark. At this point, they're not really running from the cartel. Marty has to prove his usefulness to them, and he also has to launder a whole bunch of money. In the process, they also gets mixed up with some local threats, and things obviously don't go smoothly. It's a crime drama about how this family deals with an incredibly difficult situation. The show also takes the time to show us the strain it puts on their relationship, what it does to the kids, and what it does to Marty and Wendy's marriage. Even if Ozark does things that other stories have done before, it still does them very well. Most of the characters are pretty great as well. We get a lot of insight into Marty's character specifically. We get to know him pretty well. Ozark received positive reviews from critics throughout its run. The series has received a total of 45 Primetime Emmy Award nominations. It ran for 4 seasons from 2017 to 2022. Number 3, Narcos. Narcos tells the story of Pablo Escobar on the one hand, and the story of the 2 DEA agents who went after him on the other hand, but as the show promised, it does go far beyond the personal stories of these characters, and tells us a lot about the political history of Colombia. The major events that take place really did happen in real life. The style of storytelling that they went with is very documentary style. You get a lot of archived footage, and the show is very heavily narrated by Steve Murphy's character. I thought the storytelling was very effective, because there is a lot you need to know. The majority of the show is in Spanish, so unless you speak the language, you're going to be reading a lot of subtitles. Wagner Moura, the guy who plays Pablo Escobar, is awesome. You don't have to speak Spanish in order to see how his performance is. The show starts out with Pablo Escobar already an established smuggler. You don't have to go through the rags to riches origin story because you've seen it 100 times by now. Narcos is an American-Colombian crime drama television series. It ran for 3 seasons. Number 2, Peaky Blinders. The show is set in 1900s in Birmingham, England, and concerns the Shelby family, a few brothers, and an aunt who run a gang known as the Peaky Blinders. They're known for sewing razor blades onto the peak of their caps, which they often use as weapons. The family is led by Thomas Shelby, played by Cillian Murphy, a World War I veteran with PTSD, returning from the war with his brothers and friends, and having the intention to protect his business and propel his family into the future. It's a show that puts entertainment value above everything else, and it does so by keeping the story continuously engaging. The characters are very interesting. Although there are many real-life elements to it, the show isn't really historically accurate. But the thing is, this is never an issue in the show, because of the way in which the show is made. Peaky Blinders is a British period gangster TV show from the BBC that originally started airing in 2013 to huge acclaim, and is still going strong today. It's pretty short too comparatively to a lot of big shows out there, with only 6 episodes per season. The final series was broadcast in 2022. Before we unveil number 1, here are some honorable mentions. Number 1, Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul is a prequel television series to Breaking Bad, and it tells the story of how Jimmy McGill turned into the infamous lawyer Saul Goodman. This is very similar to Breaking Bad. They had small beginnings that eventually led to much crazier, much more large-scale and intense final seasons, and this show very much carries forward with that story path. This is all told kind of through backstory and flashbacks throughout the show. Better Call Saul does struggle a bit to really sink its teeth into you, the way that Breaking Bad did. So even though this show stands on its own, and even though it holds its own legacy, it's always going to have that comparison to Breaking Bad. If you're going to want that Breaking Bad level of experience immediately, you're not quite going to get that for the first couple of episodes. Better Call Saul is an American crime and legal drama television series, and it received unanimous critical acclaim. The show concluded after 6 seasons consisting of 63 episodes.